College Football 26 comes out in less than 3 weeks, but we still know barely anything about the actual content of the game. That's why today I put together a list of every new feature we know about thanks to online forums and beta testers and other sources. So with that being said, let's get straight into it. Up first is dynamic lighting, and I've talked about it before, but for those of you who don't know, that just means that the sun is going to set throughout the game. It's going to change the shadows on the field and stuff like that. And another thing that's super cool about this is it depends on the location. So if you're in Florida, it's going to look a lot different than Minnesota, just because of how the sun is in real life and stuff like that. It's also going to change based on the month you're in. So if it's a November game, it's going to be a lot darker at 6 p.m. than an August game at the same stadium at 6 p.m. So I think that's super cool. I think that's a really nice change for just kind of the atmosphere and immersion. So with that being said, that's basically it for dynamic lighting, but once again, a super welcome change. Next up, they say they have 300 real coaches added to the game, which when I first read that, I was a little bit confused because there's only around 130 FBS teams. So does that mean they're adding offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators? But if they did that, then it'd be a lot more than 300. So if you can kind of understand what I'm getting at, I don't know how that's actually going to work in terms of the coaches in the game, which ones are real, which ones are fake. But once again, definitely everyone was kind of asking for that. It's a good change to just have real coaches. Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, all those. It's more immersion, and I don't actually know why they weren't in the game last year, but I'm glad they're in the game this year. Similarly, we have thousands of new plays, which that could kind of mean anything. Obviously, it could just be variations, but they advertise on their website that thousands of new plays are being added. So hopefully we get some more immersion in terms of playbooks. Maybe we get our styles more curated to the team and more realistic and stuff like that, which once again, I'm happy for, but I think the core plays are still going to be the same, just like in Madden and stuff like that. So maybe some variations will be fun, but don't expect a whole lot of difference in terms of the thousands new plays tag they're putting out there. High school is back, but kind of with an asterisk. You're not actually allowed to play the full games this year, which a lot of people are mad at, including myself. It's more like you play the moments. If you've ever played Madden, Face of the Franchise, stuff like that, you go in for those crucial moments. It's the same thing in high school. If you succeed maybe on a final drive, then you get more recruiting points. We don't know exactly how it works, but it's going to be something along those lines. Maybe if you're a defender, it's 4th and 10, 5 seconds left, you go in and you have to make a play, or you don't, and that's how you're going to get recruited. But we do know that teams are going to recruit you based on your performance in these select moments throughout your high school season. There's probably going to be some sort of customization with how many games you play, how hard is it, stuff like that. And then the other flip side of that is that you are allowed to commit early, which wasn't a feature in NCAA 14, but here it is now. Because you remember in NCAA 14, at the end of the season, it just said, here's your college choices, which one are you going to? Now I think you can commit early. You might be able to flip your commitment throughout the season. I don't know, once again, exactly how that'll work, but they do advertise on their website that early commitment is in the game this year. So that's another good thing they're adding. Next, they said that the sim tuning is overhauled. So basically what that means is, the simulation behind the scenes when you're playing Dynasty, Road to Glory, like that, they say they overhauled it. They completely tried to make it more realistic. And from the sounds of the beta testers, it does sound like they actually succeeded in their goal. Stuff like the touchdowns things, where quarterbacks would throw 50 touchdowns and 3 picks last year and have a crazy season. That's not realistic. It sounds like this year they dialed it back, and now these sim quarterbacks are having a lot, more regular seasons. Another thing with that is the play calling for, AI. If you look at the stats, they would call pass plays like 70% of the time, which is completely unrealistic. They've dialed that back down to like 55%, which I think is around the number that is in real life as well. So that's definitely good, because that's something a lot of people complained about, is that the sim tuning was really bad in College Football 25. It wasn't realistic at all. Now that's going to be fixed, so hopefully that helps with Dynasty and stuff like that with the immersion factors. Another thing with Dynasty is that the overall quality of life improved, and that's just something that's coming from the beta testers. They say that like the menus and stuff, they're easier to navigate. The stuff with player development and, seeing how players actually play, I guess is what you could say. That's a lot easier. You don't have to go into a million menus. You know what's going on when you're navigating it, which once again, that's just something that is really helpful. And EA is not known for, responding to the fan base super well, but we complained about it last year and they fixed it. So hopefully this college football dev team is a little more intact than games like Madden and FIFA and stuff like that. Another thing that people complain about that's now in the game is wear and tear sliders, because you remember last year your choices were leave it on or leave it off, and if you leave it on it kind of just ruined your experience. So most people just turned it off, and we're kind of sad because it's supposed to be that new feature. They advertised it a ton last year when College Football 25 comes out. So at least this year we can control how hard it's actually going to affect you. So what I mean by that is you can probably have a slider to control how tough your legs are, how tough your head is, and stuff like that, just to fine tune it. And we can probably get sliders pretty quickly that are realistic in terms of injuries and stuff like that, because wear and tear obviously does happen in real life, just not to the extreme version that was in College Football 25. This year they're adding formation subs, which is another thing that people complain wasn't in the game. There's not a whole lot to say about them. I mean, they're just formation subs. You get to control who comes in with what formations, which is good. But yeah, once again, not much to say, but just a good thing that they're adding it and listening to the community. Next are a couple of gameplay additions. The first one is the quarterback can now juke in the backfield, which I talked about this earlier. If you're holding R2, the right stick will actually allow you to juke out defenders. And then the playmaker feature is unholding the R2 button basically. So when you have it off, that's your playmaker. When you have it on, you can juke, which that can get probably bad quickly, but it'll be something we have to adjust to. Next is a change to defenders. They can only pick stuff off if they have their eyes around. So you're not going to get those running backwards, catch it over their head. That's completely unrealistic. They can't even see the ball. That's not going to happen anymore. They changed that, so now they're only going to get picks when they're facing the ball, maybe a safety coming down, a corner coming down, something like that. But you're not going to get those cheesy Madden video game type interceptions anymore. Next, they added music for a ton of different stadiums, that they didn't have last year. It's mostly just copyright music that they finally got the license to. They didn't get around to it last year and people were disappointed. Stuff like Virginia Tech, stuff like that. Most of those stadiums have their classic sounds now, which is good. But another thing that doesn't really have much to say about it other than I'm glad they added it. Going back to College Football 26 page on EA Sports website, which is very small, it does say improved blocking, which who knows how true that actually is, because we've known from experience the blocking is very bad. It was in 25 too. There's stuff with R2 and stuff like that, but people don't really understand how it works. There's a lot of issues with the guys just not picking up defenders. So by them saying improved, that could mean anything. It doesn't mean it's a great blocking. It could just be a little bit better, and that would still be improved from last year just because how bad it was in the past. So I guess we'll just have to see, but if they did improve it a lot, that's obviously going to be something very good. But I don't know. We'll just have to see how much they actually improved it. Next, they said there are custom defensive zones, which this just means you can probably go into the playbook and whatever and choose how you want your zones to line up, which it'll be good for those sweaty players that know a ton about defense. I'm more of an offensive guy, so I don't know. I just usually use coach suggestions, but for those of you who do like that customization and I guess realism, you'll probably like this feature. I definitely won't ever use it, but it'll just make the good players better. With that being said though, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more College Football 26 as we get closer to it coming out. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.